When reading The Lord of the Rings, one is struck, or at least this reader was, by a sense of the numinous. The reader feels a connection to another world. And not just because the world of the novel is called Middle-earth, or because some characters are elves or goblins. Such elements are expected in fantasy novels. But Tolkien has not only transported the reader into the fictional world of Middle-earth, he also connects them to a world beyond Middle-earth, a world only glimpsed by the characters in the novel, yet somehow glimpsed by the reader as well. One of the ways Tolkien does this is by the use of divination and prophecy, elements which are common to many works of fantasy literature, but used here to a masterful effect.
Hey there, Tolkieneers. I'm Danny J.
And I'm Joel N., and welcome back to
Keep on Tolkien. We are very excited today to bring you episode 2 of the Doom Trilogy.
Yeah, guys, get ready for this one. Episode 2, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, we chose to cover Tolkien's concept of Doom in 3 simple parts. One being oaths. We already covered that last week. Prophecies is this week. And next week shall be... Curses.
We're really excited about Curses. That one's going to be super fun, so, stay tuned. This week, we're going to be talking about Prophecies.
Indeed.
So let's start with the just a simple definition of prophecy.
A prophecy is defined as a statement that something will happen in the future, especially one made by someone with religious or magic powers.
Yeah, so prophecies they also tend to have a very strong effect on Doom, similar to oaths.
Yeah.
Although I'd say that prophecies probably have a stronger effect on Doom more so than oaths did.
We were just talking about that, actually, yes. I would agree that prophecies are stronger.
Yeah, I mean, prophecies, they essentially dictate doom. And this can be someone's personal doom or the doom of an entire population. Like, prophecies can affect wide swaths of people.
Indeed.
And prophecies can also seal somebody's doom in a very specific way. And we see this play out famously on several occasions that we'll get into on today's episode.
Yeah. So today's list will cover much of the major prophecies that are the main driving forces throughout much of Tolkien's legendarium.
Yeah, there are a lot of prophecies throughout Tolkien and everything he's written, so we're not going to be able to cover all of them.
No, but here's a good handful of them.
Yeah, we came up with about 13 or so.
So let's get into it right in the first stage. What do we have?
Starting off early on. So the very first major prophecy that a lot of you are probably thinking of, this is probably the biggest prophecy in all of Tolkien's legendarium, is the Doom of Mandos.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest.
So this is referred to as also called the Doom of the Noldor, the Curse of Mandos, or the Prophecy of the North.
Indeed. And this was pronounced to the Noldor in response to their kinslaying at Alqualande. After the kinslaying, the Noldor made their way north to the borders of the wastelands called Araman.
Yeah, we've talked about this a few times in past episodes. This was a huge point in history for all of Middle-earth, really.
Yeah.
So the Doom of Mandos, this prophecy that is given, this concerns the future of the Noldor rebellion, specifically the Noldor who are leaving Aman. Mm-hmm. They're leaving Valinor.
Straight
to go
up
back
rebellion.
to Middle-earth. Yeah.
And it warns the Noldor if they continue their rebellion, things that they will find. Joel.
They will have to endure endless war and suffering for all of the Noldor.
They will be shut out of Valinor forever.
The Valar will never help them in their struggle against Melkor.
All of their good accomplishments in the meantime will then turn evil.
Many of the Noldor will be slain.
And they will straight never obtain the treasures that they seek, which includes, but not limited to,
the Silmarils. And we have a rather long excerpt here about the proclamation of the Doom of Mandos. So we're going to split this excerpt between the two of us.
And double team it.
Double team. We couldn't not do the whole excerpt. It was too
juicy.
It was too juicy.
After they had marched for a great while in the unmeasured night, they came at length to the northern confines of the guarded realm, upon the borders of the empty wastes of Araman, which were mountainous and cold. There they beheld suddenly a dark figure standing high upon a rock that looked down upon the shore. Some say it was Mandos himself, and no lesser herald of Manwë. And they heard a loud voice, solemn and terrible, that bade them stand and give ear. Then all halted and stood still, and from the end to the end of the host of the Noldor, the voice was heard, speaking the curse and the prophecy, which is called the Prophecy of the North, and the doom of the Noldor. Much it foretold in dark words, which the Noldor understood not, until the woes indeed after befell them. But all heard the curses that were uttered upon those that would not stray or seek the doom and pardon of the Valar.
Tears unnumbered ye shall shed, and all the Valar will fence Valinor against you, and shut you out, so that not even the echo of your lamentation shall pass over the mountains. On the house of Feanor the wrath of the Valar lieth from east unto the uttermost west, and upon all that will follow them it shall be laid also. Their oath shall drive them, and yet betray them, and ever snatch away the very treasures that they have sworn to pursue. To evil ends shall all things turn, that they begin well, and by treason of kin unto kin, and the fear of treason, shall this come to pass. The disposed shall they be forever. Ye have spilled the blood of your kindred unrighteously, and have stained the land of Aman. For blood ye shall render blood, and beyond Aman ye shall dwell in death's shadow. For though Eru appointed to you to die not in Ea, and no sickness may assail you, yet slain you may be, and slain ye shall be, by weapon, and by torment, and by grief. And your houseless spirits shall come then to Mandos. There long shall ye abide, and yearn for your bodies, and find little pity, though all whom ye have slain should entreat for you. And those that endure Middle-earth, and come not to Mandos, shall grow weary of the world, as with great burden, and shall wane, and become as shadows of regret before the younger race that cometh after. The Valar have spoken.
Yeesh. Yes, they have. And that's from the Silmarillion, Chapter 9, The Flight of the Noldor.
Yeah, so like we mentioned earlier, this was in response to the Noldor rebellion, we called it, because they're trying to flee Valinor, and in their flight, they actually ended up trying to kill some of their own elves, right? In the kinslaying, so...
Yeah, they murdered a whole bunch of them.
So in the immediate aftermath of the pronouncement, a handful of the people there, specifically those under the rule of Finarfin,
Yeah.
they repented of the deeds and the kinslaying, and they all turned back, and they returned to the city of Tirion, and Finarfin becomes the High King of the Noldor that stayed in Valinor.
Indeed. So, how did this one get fulfilled?
Yeah, to see this particular prophecy play out, all you have to do is read the entire Silmarillion.
Yeah, really, it's that simple.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest prophecies in all of Tolkien because it is essentially
the main driving force.
The main driving force for the entirety of the Quenta Silmarillion. Basically the story of the Quenta Silmarillion is fulfilling this prophecy to the end.
Yeah. So this prophecy, it foretells the death of the majority of the Noldor that are going to rebel.
Yeah, and there's multiple reasons for this. Like, they're going to end up doing a number of things that kill off a lot of the Noldor.
Yeah, so what are some of the major Noldor killers, Joel?
So the first and
original.
foremost, the crossing of the Hellcarax. Yeah. So in a previous episode, we talked about this, and didn't like hundreds, if not thousands of people
like thousands
die?
of them died. Yeah, it was a big deal.
This is essentially them crossing their version of the Bering Strait to get back to Middle-earth.
And it was not fun. What else killed a bunch of elves? But 5 major battles of Beleriand that the Noldor took part in.
Yeah, also known as the War of the Jewels.
Yep. All of them combined. Only 2 of them are winning, too.
Yeah, that was these 5 major battles. Basically a direct response, or a direct effect of the Oath of Feanor that we talked about in the last episode.
The most terrible of oaths.
The most terrible of oaths. It basically led to them swearing that they will follow Melkor and try to fight him anywhere he goes all the time, and that leads to these 5 major battles, which kills a ton of Noldor.
Yeah. It also leads to the death of the majority of the Noldor royalty, with all of them actually, with the exception of Maglor and Galadriel.
Yeah, notable dead people. We've got Fëanor himself.
Yeah, we got Fingolfin.
And Fingon.
And of course, Finrod Felagund.
The beloved.
And then we got Turgon as well.
King Turgon of Gondolin.
And then we got, like we said, 6 of the 7 sons of Fëanor.
Yeah, and those are just some of the main characters from that house.
Yep.
The sons of Fëanor alone kill so many more people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that prophecy is the Doom of Mandos, one of the biggest prophecies in all of Tolkien. It plays out through the entire Silmarillion. There are so many events that are directly take place because of this prophecy, and it is huge, and it ends in the death of many.
Oh yeah, it's big news.
Mm-hmm. But we have another prophecy on this list by Mandos as well.
Yeah, and this one's going to be fun, guys. Buckle up for this one.
Yeah,
This
so the
one's
second
interesting.
prophecy on our list is called the Second Prophecy of Mandos.
Believe it or not. Yeah.
What a naming scheme.
Wouldn't you have it? So it's concerning what is known as the Dagor Dagorath, which is Sindarin for Battle of All Battles.
Yeah, and this is the last battle, essentially, between Morgoth and the Valar that takes place at the end of the world.
And the things that'll happen within this, the world will be destroyed and rebuilt. It's essentially Tolkien's version of Ragnarok, so we got good versus evil once and for all.
Right, destruction and rebuilding of the world, very similar. And yeah, after this, the world will be remade again into a new world, a new era.
Yeah.
And this prophecy, some of you may not have heard of it because it's a little controversial.
It's a little bit controversial, and I said it's only canon in our hearts.
And only in our hearts.
Because the second prophecy of Mandos was actually omitted from newer drafts of the Silmarillion by Chris Tolkien himself.
Yeah, there was really only found in some of the original drafts of the Silmarillion. But the reason it was deleted was because of a single line that Christopher Tolkien found in his father's writings. And this can be found, this particular passage that Christopher found, you can find it in the History of Middle-earth series, Volume 10, Morgoth's Ring. And it goes as follows.
If any change shall come and the marring of Arda be amended, Manwë and Varda may know, but they have not revealed it, and it is not declared in the Dooms of Mandos. So Christopher took this line kind of literally, meaning that he thinks his father would have deleted the second prophecy in the finished version.
But I don't know, personally, we love the second prophecy. I mean, I think it really rounds the whole Silmarillion off really well.
Yeah, and the controversy gets a little deeper here after. We'll read you the quote first.
Yeah, we'll cover this prophecy first. We've got an excerpt about this prophecy itself. What is the prophecy? Thus spoke Mandos in prophecy, when the Valar sat in judgment in Valinor, and the rumor of his word was whispered among all the elves of the west. When the world is old and the powers have grown weary, Morgoth, the black foe of the world, seeing that the guard sleepeth, shall come back through the door of night, out of the timeless void, and all shall be darkness. For the sun will be turned to black, and the moon will no longer shed his light. But the hosts of Valinor shall descend upon him as a searing flame white and terrible. Then shall the last battle be gathered on the fields of Valinor. In that day Tulkas shall strive with Morgoth, and on his right hand shall be Eonwë, and on his left Turin Turambar, son of Hurin, returning from the doom of men at the ending of the world. And the black sword of Turin shall deal unto Morgoth his death and final end. And so shall the children of Hurin and all fallen men be avenged. Therefore shall the earth be broken and remade, and the Silmarils shall be recovered out of air and earth and sea. For Fëanor shall surrender them willingly, and Yavanna rekindle the 2 trees, and a great light shall come forth. And the mountains of Valinor shall be leveled, so that the light shall go out over all of the world. In that light the Valar will grow young again, and the elves awake, and all their dead arise, and the purpose of Iluvatar be fulfilled concerning them. But of men in that day the prophecy of Mandos doth not speak, and no man it names save Turin only, and to him a place is given among the sons of the Valar.
And that, of course, can be found in the History of Middle-earth, The Lost Road, and Other Writings, Book 5, Part 2, Chapter 6, The Quenta Silmarillion.
So that is the second prophecy of Mandos. It's basically the prophecy prophesizing what is known as the Dagor Dagorath, the final battle.
And so here's the thing, right? We just covered that it was omitted by Christopher Tolkien, correct?
Yeah, and we quoted that little reference in Tolkien's note that he found.
But here's the thing. It's also still mentioned in several occasions in the published version of the Silmarillion.
Yeah, in the rest of the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
It's mentioned several times throughout. It really feels like it should be there.
And this leads to the subject of its canonity, fun word, to be hotly debated among Tolkieneers today.
Yeah, although it was omitted, it is still mentioned.
Three
like
times.
We said, mentioned. And those 3 times are, first of all, in the Silmarillion, the chapter called Of Aule and Yavanna, so it's towards the beginning of the Silmarillion. It's mentioned that the dwarves would rebuild the earth after the, quote, last battle.
And again, in the Silmarillion and of the coming of the elves and the captivity of Melkor, it is mentioned that the constellation Menelmacar, the swordsman of the sky, forebodes, quote, the last battle.
The last battle. And then again in the Silmarillion, toward the end in the Calabeth, it's mentioned that the Númenóreans, the ones that tried to assault Valinor, they're trapped in the caves of the Forgotten until, quote, the last battle and the day of doom, end quote.
So we'll leave it up to you guys how canon you think this shit is.
Yeah, Christopher made the executive decision to take it out of latter versions of the Silmarillion, but honestly, I'm one that I think it should be canon.
I think it should be canon too, and that's going to be our call, the Keep on Tolkien podcast.
Yeah, it is of our opinions that the second Doom of Mandos is canon, but that's
That's just us.
to each their own.
You know. Let's get into some more prophecies, dude.
Yeah, so let's move past the prophecies of Mandos. So some more prophecies during the first age are popularly spoken by Melian.
Yes, Melian makes many prophecies. So let's just recap a little bit. Who is Melian? She's a Maiar that mostly takes the form of an elf maiden, and she spent much of her time in the forests of Beleriand.
And there, in those forests, is where she meets an elf who is at this point known as Elwë, and they fall in love. And the couple later get married, and they rule the elves of Beleriand as Queen Melian and King Thingol of Doriath.
Yeah. And she's regarded as one of the wisest characters in all of the friggin' legendarium.
Seriously. She has the gift of foresight, and she makes more than a handful of prophecies, and a lot of them are in the Silmarillion.
Mm-hmm. And also often disregarded by friggin' everybody.
Yeah, she's the person who, you would want to have around.
Listen to Melian.
She uses her gift of foresight probably more than any other character in Tolkien's legendarium, ever.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, she's
heated.
Yeah, she's the one who's the most widely disregarded. People just what the fuck do you know?
Yeah,
you just
whatever, Melian.
spew out a prophecy a day, whatever.
You're always talking shit.
So one of the prophecies that Melian makes is her prediction of war coming to Beleriand.
Yeah, this is big because it's in a very, this is when the captivity of Melkor is about to end. So this is a very peaceful time throughout Arda.
Yeah, so this is when the peace of Middle-earth is about to end, and she realizes that there is need for a wartime fortress. So during the second age of the captivity of Melkor, when it's coming up on the end of his captivity, she predicts that the peace isn't going to last, and there's going to be war coming, and Thingol essentially orders the delving of their kingdom, Menegroth.
Yeah, Menegroth. Everybody knows Menegroth, the Thousand Caves, right?
Yeah, it's where he is. That's his palace. And we've got an excerpt about this here, read by Senor Danny.
Now Melian had much foresight after the manner of the Maiar, and when the second age of the captivity of Melkor had passed, she counseled Thingol that the peace of Arda would not last forever. He took thought, therefore, how he should make for himself a kingly dwelling, and a place that should be strong, if evil were to awake again in Middle-earth. And he sought aid in the aid and counsel of the dwarfs of Belegos, the Naugrim. They labored long and gladly for Thingol, and devised for him mansions after the fashion of their people, delved deep in the earth, where the river Escalduin flowed down and parted the forests of Neldereth and Region. There rose in the midst of a forest a rocky hill, and the river ran at its feet. There they made the gates of the hall of Thingol, and they built a bridge of stone over the river, by which along the gates could be entered. Beyond the gates, wide passages ran down to high halls and chambers far below that were hewn in the living stone, so many and so great that the dwelling was named Menegroth, the Thousand Caves.
Hell yeah. If there was ever a place I could go to live in Beleriand, it'd probably be Menegroth.
Yeah, Menegroth would be super, super freaking cool. Because not only is it's carved like a dwarven city, which would be cool for you. You'd love that shit.
Hell yeah.
But it's made to fit elves.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
It's
we'd
also
be fine there.
within the girdle of Melian, so it's safe.
Nothing is ever going to happen to you. Yeah.
But also, they don't have the rules in Gondolin where you have to stay there till you die. You can kind of come and
freely
go.
come and go. As long as you have leave of the king, you can pass through the girdle of the Melian, like, whatever.
Yeah, so it'd be a sweet place to live. So, yes, so the fulfillment of this prophecy, the Noldor did eventually come to Middle-earth, and with them, they bring their never-ending war with Melkor, and Menegroth must become a stronghold, and it does. It becomes the stronghold of King Thingol throughout the wars of Beleriand. One of the times you can say that they actually took Melian's advice, and it's good they did.
Yeah, and complete with Melian's Girdle of Melian, it was one of the most well-protected places in all of Beleriand.
Yeah, so pretty important to listen to Melian. Another prophecy of Melian's. So this prophecy predicts that there will be one who will infiltrate the Girdle of Melian.
And that is to say, someone who is there without the leave of King Thingol.
But somehow, because of their doom and the power of doom, they will be able to make it through.
Yes, indeed.
So who is this concerning?
This is concerning Beren, son of Barahir, finally penetrating the Girdle of Melian and coming into Doriath. So what is the Girdle of Melian? Let's talk about that a little bit.
A little bit more in depth. So the girdle was basically a magical barrier that surrounds the entirety of the kingdom of Doriath. It allowed no one to enter, like we said, without the permission of King Thingol. It was maintained by the power of Melian the Maya, and it would last until the year 502 of the First Age, and that's essentially when Melian departs Middle-earth after the death of the king.
In Melian, she has this prediction, this prophecy, that someone's going to make their way through it, and we got Joel to read the excerpt of that.
Therefore, King Thingol commanded that men should take no lands to dwell in, save in the north, and that the princes for whom they served should be answerable for all that they did. And he said, Into Doriath shall no man come while my realm lasts, not even those of the house of Beor, who serve Finrod the Beloved. Melian said nothing to him at that time, but afterwards she said to Galadriel, Now the world runs on swiftly to great tidings, and one of men, even of Beor's house, shall indeed come, and the girdle of Melian shall not restrain him. For doom greater than my power shall send him, and the songs that shall spring from that coming shall endure when all Middle-earth is changed.
And that, of course, is from the Silmarillion, chapter 17, of the coming of men into the west.
Yeah, so this is essentially, like we mentioned, it's this foretelling of the coming of Beren into Doriath, where he will eventually meet Luthien.
Yeah, and that happened in 464 of the First Age. He made his way through the girdle, met Luthien, daughter of Melian and Thingol, and they, of course, fall in love. Greatest love story ever told, right?
It is one of the greatest love stories ever told. It's also pretty dark. So, essentially, Beren, after they fall in love, Beren is brought before King Thingol, and he's essentially going to ask for the hand of Luthien in marriage. But this kind of leads us into our next prophecy, too.
Yes. So Melian said that sending Beren for the Silmaril would lead to the ruin of Doriath.
Yeah. So when Beren comes before Thingol to ask for Luthien's hand in marriage, King Thingol kind of claps back by saying, you can marry if you go on this quest for a Silmaril.
Yeah, this simple quest for the Silmaril.
This Silmaril from Morgoth's Iron Crown. He essentially just wanted to send him on a death quest. He didn't want it to happen. But Melian warns Thingol that now he has ensnared himself and the kingdom of Doriath in the Oath of Feanor, and that's never a good idea.
Not a good idea. And she said it could ultimately lead to the destruction of Doriath.
Yeah, going for one of those Silmarils, she's basically just saying you'd be better off leaving it all alone. But we've got an excerpt about this prophecy here, read by Mr. Danny.
Then at last Melian spoke and said to Thingol, O king, you have devised cunning counsel, but if my eyes have not lost their sight, it is ill for you, whether Beren fail in his errand or achieve it, for you have doomed either your daughter or yourself, and now is Doriath drawn within the fate of a mightier realm.
Yeah, she gives it to him straight. And so this prophecy eventually becomes fulfilled now because Beren does indeed return and give a Silmaril to Thingol. He completes his quest, and Thingol gets one of those Silmarils.
Yeah, that sweet Silmaril. And for more on that, check out our Beren and Luthien character profile. That's way back in Season 1, 8, and that was episodes 8 and 9.
Yeah, so at this point, Thingol has a Silmaril, and what does he do with it? He has it set within a beautiful necklace known as the Nauglamir.
And this, of course, leads directly to his murder by the dwarves.
Yeah, the Nauglamir, it existed before the Silmaril. It was kind of a dwarven necklace. And he just had them basically put the Silmaril into that necklace. So the dwarves loved it, and they really wanted it, and they killed him for it.
Yeah, they killed him for it.
And this leads to the subsequent first sacking of Doriath in the year 503 of the First Age.
Yes. And so the Nauglamir is eventually returned to Doriath. It's taken by the dwarves, but this also leads to Doriath being sacked a second time in 506, 3 years later. This is when Beren and Luthien's son Dior is slain, when the sons of Feanor come to get what's theirs.
Yeah, Melian was right, man. Including yourself in this whole getting a Silmaril and then getting yourself tangled up in this oath, not good.
Yeah.
Now Doriath has been sacked twice. And,
within 3 years of each other.
Yeah, within 3 years.
Like, what the hell?
So Elwing, the daughter of King Dior at the time, Elwing survives this second sacking of Doriath, and she flees to the havens of Sirion. And at this point in the First Age, the havens of Sirion is kind of like the
refugee camp.
It's for refugees. It's where Círdan, the motherfucking shipwright, hangs out. And naturally, refugees go to him because he's the shit. Mm-hmm. If you need safety, go to Círdan, bro.
Go to Círdan. He's stable.
Take care of you.
The guy everybody trusts. Círdan, the motherfucking shipwright. Shafted.
So another prophecy of Melian's. This is going to be the last of her prophecies that we mention. But this is the prophecy surrounding the sword Anglikel.
Of course. And this concerns Beleg Cuthalion and the sword Anglikel, like we said. And this is in the tale of the children of Húrin.
Yeah, so when Turin, in that tale, when Turin flees Doriath after the death of Saros, he thinks he's going to get in trouble. He runs off, leaves Doriath, and he befriends a band of outlaws. And that's just kind of where he spends a lot of his life. And his best friend back in Doriath, the elf known as Beleg, he seeks King Thingol's leave to leave the kingdom and go join Turin to ensure his safety because he loves the man.
And of course, Beleg asks Thingol for the only thing he wants in return is a sword that's worth a damn.
Yeah, King Thingol grants him this request and allows him to take any sword that Thingol has, save his own sword, Arenruth. And Beleg goes into his stores and chooses the amazing, the very special, the black blade known as Anglikel that he had in his stores. The only black blade in there.
Yeah, and Anglikel was one of two swords made from the black meteoric iron by Ael the Dark Elf. And also, if you guys want to know all about these friggin' swords, check out our Artifact Swords episode, right?
Yeah, check out the Artifacts episode. Swords. Hell yeah. We cover this sword specifically because it's a very important sword in the legendarium.
Yeah, made by a known piece of shit.
Yeah, Ael the Dark Elf, unknown piece of shit. And that kind of affects the sword in the long run.
Indeed. So Beleg, when he chooses this blade, Melian has a warning for him. And Joel's going to read this ominous warning.
But as Thingol turned the hilt of Anglikel towards Beleg, Melian looked at the blade, and she said, "There is malice in this sword. The dark heart of the smith still dwells in it. It will not love the hand it serves, neither will it abide with you long." But of course,
Like many things that Melian says, it is ultimately ignored by everyone.
Why does everyone just, like, disregard her fucking advice?
Yeah, I don't know, dude. And yeah, so Beleg takes a sword anyway. Poo-poo on you, takes it anyway.
Yeah, and this sword does lead to a lot of woe.
Yeah, let's see how this one's fulfilled. Let's see how this fucking works out.
Yeah, so after Turin is captured by some orcs and they're trying to take him back to Angband, Beleg tracks down this band of orcs, and with his help of his new pal Gwyndor,
Unsung hero.
Him and Beleg, they attempt to free Turin from his bonds one night, and they're trying to be quiet, and they're using this black sword, and Beleg, he's trying to cut his bonds, but Beleg, the blade slips and accidentally cuts Turin's foot.
Wouldn't you know it? And Turin, being the crazy fighter and shit that he is, he wakes up and wrestles the sword from Beleg and runs him through with it without knowing what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, he thought the orcs were back to torment him or something. And then I think they say, what is it in the story? And there's a flash of lightning.
Yeah, there's a flash of lightning, and then he sees the face of his murdered friend underneath his own sword.
His best friend. Yeah, traumatizing. Yeah, you should have swapped it out for a different blade, bro.
Yep.
But that's the last of Melian's prophecies we're getting into. The next prophecy on our list is Finrod's prophecy.
Yeah, and this one's concerning Finrod Felagund's legacy and the fate of the kingdom of Nargothrond.
Yeah, so Finrod basically has a moment of foreknowledge, and he foresees that he will be taking an oath in the future. We actually talked about this oath previously.
Yes, we did, and last week, actually. Check it out. During the early part of the First Age, Nargothrond had just been finished, and the sons of Finarfin and their sister Galadriel had come to chill at Finrod's new pad.
Yeah, and this is when there's a conversation between Finrod and Galadriel, and Finrod just drops this prophecy. And we've got a excerpt about this read by Danny.
It came to pass that Nargothrond was full wrought, and the sons of Finarfin were gathered there to a feast. And Galadriel came from Doriath and dwelt for a while in Nargothrond. Now King Finrod Felagund had no wife, and Galadriel asked him why this should be. But foresight came upon Felagund as she spoke, and he said, An oath I too shall swear, and must be free to fulfill it, and go into darkness. Nor shall anything of my realm endure that a son should inherit. But it is said that not until that hour had such a cold thoughts ruled him, for indeed she whom he had loved was Amarie of the Vanyar, and she went not with him into exile.
Yeah, it's kind of a sad story.
Yeah, the Amarie story, yeah, she didn't come, yeah, he had a girlfriend over in Valinor.
Yeah, he wasn't originally going to go into exile with the Noldor. He wasn't going to follow Feanor and them leaving Valinor, but he did for his people, and his lover didn't go with him.
Yeah.
So he never took a wife, and he had this prophecy that he wasn't ever going to marry for the reasons of this coming oath. So fulfillment of this prophecy. So ultimately, Felagund did indeed make an oath to Barahir of the House of Beor, and that was during the Dagor Bragollach. And this oath indeed did end his life, and this happened during the quest for the Silmaril.
And of course, he died defending Beren in the dungeons of Tol Sirion, the tower he himself had made.
Yep, Beren being Barahir's son, fulfilling his oath to Beren and Barahir.
And also, this did indeed lead to the fall of Nargothrond when it was sacked by the dragon Glaurung in First Age 495.
Yeah, so there was nothing left for a son to inherit.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, so that was a rather sad prophecy because Finrod Felagund, he's known as Finrod the Beloved because everyone loves Finrod.
Everybody loves Finrod. So
the next prophecy we have on our list. So we've got a couple prophecies surrounding the hound known as Huan.
Huan. So Huan is Huan. Get it? So who is Huan?
So for those, for a refresher, Huan is a sentient wolfhound gifted to the son of Feanor, Celegorm. And this gift was given to Celegorm by the Valar Orome, back when they all lived in the Blessed Realm together. So
yeah, when everything was cool.
Yeah, when everything was cool. So so Huan is essentially like a sentient wolfhound of Valinor.
Yeah, dude, he's bred by Orome himself.
Big old dog.
So one of the things that is said about Huan, the prophecies, is that he will be permitted to speak 3 times, and only 3 times, in his life with words. It specifically says he understands all spoken words, but he only gets to speak 3 times. And we got a little excerpt read by Joel about that.
Luthien spoke often to Huan in her captivity, telling him of Beren, who was the friend of all birds and beasts that did not serve Morgoth. And Huan understood all that was said, for he comprehended the speech of all things with voice, but it was only permitted to him thrice ere his death to speak with words.
And this is indeed fulfilled, so let's go through the 3 times that he gets to speak.
Yeah, so the first time Huan is permitted to speak is during the quest for the Silmaril, when Luthien is captured by Huan's master, Celegorm, and Celegorm's asshole brother, Curufin.
Yeah, that asshole.
Huan takes pity on Luthien and speaks to her, revealing to her a way for them to escape.
Yeah, clutch time to speak for the first time. Thanks.
Yeah, like, hey, let's make a plan, get you up, bust you out of here.
And the second time is also kind of a similar occasion. This is during the quest for the Silmaril. Huan speaks and reveals a plan that he has to enter Angband. And what was that plan?
This is a clutch plan. Okay, so he talks to Beren and Luthien at this point about a plan he came up with for them to essentially wear the corpses of Draugluin, the werewolf captain, and Theringwethel, the vampire captain lady.
Yeah.
And they'll basically sneak in to Angband while wearing their skins.
Yeah, dude.
Fucking badass.
Yeah,
this is
dude.
some early fairy tale shit right here.
And okay, so sadly, the third time is when he spoke to Beren and Luthien to say farewell upon his death.
Yeah, it was basically so the third time he could speak would be on his deathbed. And he does.
And we got some more concerning, actually, his death as well.
Yeah. So another prophecy surrounding Huan is basically a product of Huan being entangled in the Oath of Feanor. So basically, Huan follows his master Celegorm into exile after Celegorm takes the oath.
Yeah.
So the oath is sort of now applied to Huan.
Because, yeah, he's sentient.
Yep, and so now there is this prophecy that said that, well, you know what?
Let's just read it.
Let's have Danny read an excerpt to you about this prophecy.
Yeah. Huan followed Celegorm into exile, and was faithful, and thus he too came under the doom of woe set upon the Noldor, and it was decreed that he should meet death, but not until he encountered the mightiest wolf that would ever walk the world.
Yeah, so this prophecy is basically death by wolf.
Death by wolf.
Eventually, Huan will be mortally wounded in combat by a giant wolf, and this comes to pass as he does engage in a crazy fucking fight with the craziest wolf ever known, and his name was Karkaroth.
Karkaroth. Yeah, and that's it. That's pretty much how it was. It played out, and Huan did his part in gaining of the Silmaril. Yay!
Yeah, that was huge. His killing Karkaroth and helping them out.
Yeah. Now let's get into a set of prophecies here.
Yeah, another set of prophecies. This one.
And they're all concerning a pretty cool-ass dude that we all like quite a bit, Eärendil.
Eärendil, son of Tuor and Idril.
And
Idril, yes. So there's actually a number of prophecies surrounding Eärendil.
And this makes sense, as Eärendil is kind of a linchpin character in the story of the Quenta Silmarillion.
Yeah, he's probably the most prophesized character in all of Tolkien.
Yeah, and both his existence and his deeds are foretold by several prophecies. So let's get into the first one, made by his grandfather, Huor.
So his grandfather Huor. This prophecy was made by his grandfather during the Near-Nathor Nordiad, the Battle of Unnumbered Tears.
Such a fun occasion to be making prophecies.
So the tide of the battle had gone bad for the elves and the men, the Edain, and Turgon had opened the leaguer of Gondolin and brought with him all of his forces.
Yeah, he was stacked, and it was a huge deal that they were even there.
So after the High King at the time, Fingon, is slain on the battlefield by Gothmog, it becomes pretty evident that the battle is lost, and they're not gonna win this.
And thinking that Gondolin will fall if it's discovered, obviously, is kind of the whole thing about Gondolin, right?
It's a secret city.
The captains of the men of Dor-lómin convinced Turgon that he must leave in order to keep his realm hidden from Morgoth.
Yeah, they assume that basically while his kingdom is hidden, there's still hope.
And those men of Dorloman, of course, are Hurin and Huor of the House of Hador. So Huor speaks with Turgon and makes his prophecy about the future of Gondolin and both of their lineages, and Joel's got a fantastic excerpt about that.
Yet if it stands but a little while, then out of your house shall come the hope of the elves and men. This I say to you, Lord, with the eyes of death, though we part here forever, and I shall not look on your white walls again. From you and from me a new star shall arise.
Yeah, and how is this one fulfilled?
So this is fulfilled years after the Battle of Gondolin. Gondolin is kept secret from Morgoth.
Yeah. And in the year First Age, 496, Tuor, son of Huor, becomes the third man of the House of Hador to make his way into the hidden city with the help of his pal, Voronwë.
Yeah, and here is when Tuor finds favor among most in the city, except, of course, Maglin and his merry band of assholes that follow him around.
Bleh.
But Tuor eventually falls in love with Idril, daughter of the King Turgon, and they marry in the year 502 of the First Age.
Yeah. In the very next year, they have a son, Eärendil.
Eärendil.
Who is, you guessed it, the grandson of Huor and Turgon. Prophecy fulfilled.
Prophecy fulfilled.
So let's talk. So that's his existence, right? There's one talking about his existence. The next two kind of talk about the deeds of Eärendil.
Yes. So the next couple prophecies. First one being Gwyndor's prophecy.
Unsung hero.
Unsung hero. Gwyndor. So in the Children of Hurin, chapter 10, Turin and Nargothrond, Gwyndor has a little line that he says to Turin.
It is a prophecy among us that one day a messenger from Middle-earth will come through the shadows to Valinor, and Manwë will hear, and Mandos relent.
Again, yeah, this proves that the idea of a messenger sent to Valinor to ask pardon of the Valar was already a well-known prophecy.
Yeah, at the very least among the elves of Nargothrond.
Right, yeah. So prophecy of his deeds were already known.
Yes. And there's another one about his deeds made by friggin' Mandos himself.
And this was a cool one. This is one I hadn't known previously.
Me neither. You dug this one up.
So in the History of Middle-earth, Volume 10, Morgoth's Ring, in the chapter Laws and Customs Among the Eldar, Tolkien tells us about a debate that the Valar had concerning whether or not King Finwë should be allowed to remarry. King Finwë was trying to get remarried way back during the Years of the Trees.
Right, because his first wife went all comatose but didn't quite die.
Yeah, she died essentially. She kind of died after the birth of his first son Feanor. But
yeah.
So they were debating whether or not Finwë should be allowed to remarry.
And Mandos, surprisingly, is in favor of letting Finwë remarry, claiming that the children of Finwë that he has with his second wife will be incredibly important later on. And he concludes saying what Joel's about to read right now.
And from them shall spring things so fair that no tears shall dim their beauty, in whose being the Valar and the kindreds both of elves and of men that are to come shall all have part, and in whose deeds they shall rejoice. When he that shall be called Eärendil setteth foot upon the shores of Aman, ye shall remember my words. In that hour ye will not say that the statute of justice hath borne fruit only in death, and the griefs that shall come ye shall weigh in the balance, and they shall not seem too heavy compared with the rising of the light when Valinor groweth dim.
Right. Well, and how are these two prophecies fulfilled? Well, the birth of Eärendil fulfills part of the prophecy of Mandos, because he was a member of both kindreds of the children of Iluvatar, the Elves and the Edain.
And in the year 542 of the First Age, Eärendil and his wife Elwing find their way to Valinor on a ship with the help of a Silmaril.
And Eärendil pleads with the Valar to help the children of Iluvatar in their struggle against Morgoth in Middle-earth.
Yeah, and essentially ultimately the Valar grant his wish, and the host of the Valar move against Morgoth in what becomes known as the War of Wrath.
And this is 42 years of conflict in which it takes to overthrow Melkor.
Yes, the War of Wrath is huge, and it not only sinks the entirety of Beleriand, but also brings about the end of the First Age.
Yeah.
And fulfills the prophecy.
Yeah. So we're getting into the latter part of the list here, guys. Let's get into maybe some more familiar ones from the Third Age here.
Yeah, some Third Age prophecies. So the next prophecy on our list is a prophecy. Basically, it's Gandalf's prophecy of the Elisar Stone.
Of course, this is concerning when Gandalf, when he gives the Elisar Stone to Galadriel.
Yeah, so let's just touch a little bit on review what the Elisar Stone is.
Right.
So the Elisar Stone, it was a fabulous gem, green as leaves, but it also had the light of the sun trapped within it, it was said.
And it translates to Elfstone in Westron. So it is also known as the Stone of Eärendil.
Yeah, and this gem, this stone, it was marveled by the Noldor, and it was said that those who looked through it were able to see their withered or aged selves as whole and young again. And it was even claimed to grant some power of healing to its wearer.
Yeah, ultimately the history is conflicting and complex. But in one version, it was made by Celebrimbor and Eregion and given to Galadriel for safekeeping. And in another version, which I like better, that was created in Gondolin by the famous elven smith Enerdil.
Yeah, and in this version, after being created in Gondolin, it was then passed down to Eärendil, because Eärendil comes from Gondolin, who then takes it on his journey to Valinor.
Yeah, with the Silmaril shit. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's really cool. So after this gem had spent some time in Valinor, upon the coming of the wizards to Middle-earth, Gandalf brings this gem back, and he brings as a sign for men that the Valar have not wholly abandoned them.
Yeah, and Gandalf then gives this stone to Galadriel for safekeeping until it can be given to the future king, Aragorn.
The Lord Aragorn, future king. And we have an excerpt about this here, read by Danny.
And he held before her the Elisar, and she looked on it and wondered. And Olorin said, "This I bring to you from Yavanna. Use it as you may. For a while you shall make the land of your dwelling the fairest place in all of Middle-earth. But it is not for you to possess. You shall hand it on when the time comes. For before you grow weary and at last forsake Middle-earth, one shall come who is to receive it, and his name shall be that of the stone. Elisar he shall be called."
Yeah, so this prophecy is fulfilled in the year 3019 of the Third Age, when Aragorn himself, the one known as Elisar, and of course the rest of the Fellowship, they come to the forest of Lothlorien.
Yeah, Galadriel then gives them gifts to help them along their journey. One of the gifts she gives to Aragorn, the Elisar.
Yeah, it's given to Aragorn, and he bears it because he bears the same name.
Yeah.
And he even takes that name when he becomes king and becomes known as King Elisar.
King Elisar.
Yeah, so that's a really hopeful prophecy, and that's one that we love. So let's get into another Third Age prophecy.
This is a fun one.
This is a fun one. So this is Glorfindel, the elf Glorfindel, whom we all love. His prophecy regarding the Witch King of Angmar.
Yeah, and this one I dare say is the cheekiest prophecy.
Yeah.
It's very cheeky.
It is very cheeky.
Mm-hmm.
So in the year 1974 of the Third Age, the northern kingdom, Arnor, has fallen, and the forces of the Dunedain and the elves are purging the north of the forces of the Witch King.
Their campaign is nearly complete when the Witch King comes forth himself. And he has some fun antagonizing Prince Erenur, which we talked about in the Unsung Heroes episode, before being scared off by Glorfindel, right?
Yeah, and Erenur, he, at this point, is just so fed up and pissed off. He wants to go after the Witch King. He wants to follow this dude.
Let's go. But Glorfindel stays his hand and makes this prophecy that Joel's about to read.
Then the Witch King laughed, and none that heard it ever forgot the horror of that cry. But Glorfindel rode up then on his white horse, and in the midst of his laughter, the Witch King turned to flight and passed into the shadows. For a night came down on the battlefield, and he was lost, and none saw whither he went. Erenur now rode back, but Glorfindel, looking into the gathering dark, said, "Do not pursue him. He will not return to this land. Far off yet is his doom, and not by the hand of man will he fall." These words many remembered, but Erenur was angry, desiring only to be avenged for his disgrace.
All right, now this is where it gets cheeky.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at how this one was fulfilled.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, just briefly, Aranor does pursue him, even though he shouldn't have, and ends up dying.
Yeah, fun little side note.
Fun little side note later on. Shouldn't have done that.
Shouldn't have done that.
But the prophecy about the Witch King's doom basically comes to fruition on March 15th of 3019 of the Third Age. And this is when the Witch King of Angmar leads the Battle of Pelennor Fields.
And in that battle, the Witch King tries to kill Theoden, the King Theoden of Rohand, but he is confronted by Éowyn, a woman, and Mary, a hobbit.
Both distinctly not man.
Not man at all.
So Mary is coincidentally also carrying a sword that was made in the North Kingdom during the war with Angmar that we previously referenced.
Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah, so this blade was essentially made with the expressed purpose of countering the Witch King's dark magic.
Yeah, and Mary stabs the Witch King in the leg with the sword, eliminating the Witch King's protection spells, and totally destroying the sword in the process.
Totally, yeah.
But this provided Éowyn with an opening to stab him in the motherfucking face, dude.
To stab him right in the fucking face.
Yeah, dude.
That I love that. Like, of all the places, she just stabs him in the
she
face.
drove it didn't say between Helm and Hauberk or something like that?
Yeah, it's really gnarly. It's so great. Yeah, so that's a pretty sweet prophecy, and I think we all love getting to watch that one be fulfilled.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the greatest moments in the movie. It's so fucking cool.
So the next prophecy we've got for you on our list is the prophecies of Malbeth the Seer.
Malbeth the Seer, yeah. Kind of a little character that I didn't know about, but turns out to be pretty important. We were actually going to talk about her in the Unsung Heroes episode, but I expressly saved her for this episode.
Yeah, because Malbeth the Seer, she's a very cool character that I didn't know much about.
No, but she lives in the North Kingdom of Arthedain, and she's one of the royal counselors to the Dunedain.
And essentially, Malbeth the Seer, she foretold that Arvidwi would be the last king of the North until Aragorn takes the paths of the dead.
And our boy Halbarad, unsung hero, he referenced this prophecy in the Return of the King when he mentions to Aragorn that the sons of Elrond suggest they take the paths of the dead.
Yes, and we've got a excerpt about this scene here, read by Danny.
This is the word that the sons of Elrond bring to me from their father in Rivendell, wisest in lore. Bid Aragorn remember the words of the seer and the paths of the dead. And what may be the words of the seer? Asked Legolas. Thus spoke Malbeth the Seer in the days of Arvidwi, the last king of Fornos, said Aragorn. Over the land there lies a long shadow. Westward reaching wings of darkness, the tower trembles to the tomb of kings. Doom approaches. The dead awaken, for the hour has come for the Oathbreakers. At the stone of Eric they shall stand again. And hear there a horn in the hills ringing. Who shall the horn be? Who shall call them from the gray twilight? The forgotten people? The heir of him to whom the oath they swore. From the north shall he come. Need shall drive him. He shall pass the doors to the paths of the dead.
Hell yeah. Malbeth the Seer, man, she's just spitting some crazy prophecies.
Yeah, crazy ones.
So naturally, the fulfillment of this prophecy comes about on March 8th of the year 3019 of the Third Age. And this is when, as we know, Aragorn and the Great Company, they take the paths of the dead.
Yeah, and Aragorn calls upon the dead men of Dunharrow to fulfill their oath to Isildur to help them defend Gondor in its time of need.
Yeah, this also ends up being the fastest way and the only way that they could make it through the mountains into the sea fast enough to stop the Corsairs of Umbar in time.
Which is key.
That is key.
Key to winning the battle.
They needed to take the paths of the dead to get there that quickly, and they needed to take the paths of the dead to call on the dead men of Dunharrow to fulfill their oath.
Yeah, and they take all those Corsair ships, fill them with homies, and bring them up to Harlan to fucking fight in Pelennor Fields.
And as we know, if not for this, they would not have narrowly won the War of the Ring.
So let's get into a kind of sad one.
Yeah, another Third Age prophecy. So this is the prophecy, this is Gilraen the Fair predicting her own death.
And Gilraen the Fair, she was the mother of Aragorn. Gilbrain and Aragorn actually lived together in Rivendell until 2951 of the Third Age, when Aragorn turned 21 and was told of his heritage by Elrond.
Yeah, this is when Aragorn leaves Rivendell to go assume his role as chieftain of the Dunedain, and he goes and has adventures and journeys throughout Middle. Yeah, he Aragorn shit.
He Aragorn.
This is what they do.
That's what he does, baby.
So in about the year 2984, thereabouts of the Third Age, this is when Gilrain leaves Rivendell, and she goes and returns to Eriador to live out the rest of her life with her people there. That's where she's from.
Yeah, there's Dunedain scattered all throughout Eriador for sure. Sometime during the year Third Age 3006, Aragorn visits his mother for the last time, and she prophesizes her own death.
Yeah, and in a way, she kind of prophesizes Aragorn's future role as king in his coronation and the revitalization of the Dunedain. She kind of hints at it.
Kind of hints at it all. We got an excerpt read by Joel about that.
On a time when Aragorn had returned to the north, he visited Gilrain, his mother, and she said to him before he went, "This is our last parting, Estel, my son. I am aged by care, even as one of lesser men, and now that it draws near, I cannot face the darkness of our time that gathers upon Middle-earth. I shall leave it soon." Aragorn tried to comfort her, saying, "Yet there may be light beyond the darkness, and if so, I would have you see it and be glad." But she answered only with this lenod: "Onen, I Estel edain, Ucheben Estel anamin. I give hope to the Dunedain. I have kept none for myself." And Aragorn went away heavy of heart, and Gilrain died before the next spring.
Yes, and as it says in the end there, yes, this was fulfilled in the year 3007 of the Third Age, when Gilrain indeed dies at the age of 100 years old, very young for a Dunedain.
Very young for a Dunedain. I saw the age 100 and I was like, oh, she was old, but no, she was a Dunedain. That was very young. And that's why she said, "I have aged even as one of the lesser men."
Mm-hmm.
We've talked previously also, we don't like using the term.
We don't like that term.
Lesser men.
Yeah, even though we love the Dunedain and they're the best, we don't like to use the term lesser men.
No. Middlemen, I'll accept that term.
Yeah, middlemen is good. And after this, Aragorn also assumes his role as chieftain of the Dunedain, and on May 1st, TA 3019, he is crowned King of Gondor, reuniting the two kingdoms and reviving the Dunedain culture. Yay!
Yeah, as she kind of hinted at, she said she gave all of her hope to the Dunedain. Aragorn's name is Hope.
Aragorn's name is Hope, you guys.
She has kept none for herself.
Kind of like Feanor's mom a little bit.
Yeah. I never really drew those similarities before. That's a good point. That's a very good point.
So this is a fun one. This next prophecy we got here.
Yeah, so the next one on our list is the prophecy. It's actually a song. It's called "The King Beneath the Mountains."
Yes, yes, yes.
And so this prophecy is concerning the song called "The King Beneath the Mountains," which is a song about the dwarven king of Erebor. And this song is sung, we hear it, at least the audience, we hear it sung by the people of Lake Town in The Hobbit. And this is upon the arrival of Thorin Oakenshield and company. And it's basically just a song about a prophecy that they have about the return of the king under the mountain. And it goes a little something like this.
The king beneath the mountains, the king of carven stone, the lord of silver fountains, shall come into his own. His crown shall be upholden, his harp shall be restrung, his hall shall echo golden to songs of yore sung. The wood shall wave on mountains, the grass beneath the sun, the wells shall flow in fountains, the rivers golden run. The streams shall run in gladness, the lakes shall shine and burn, all sorrows fail in sadness, at the mountain king's return.
Yeah, so basically they're just foretelling the return of the king after, the kingdom fell from the coming of the dragon Smaug.
Yeah.
And technically this prophecy was fulfilled twofold, in kind of a good way and a bad way.
Indeed.
So, as we know, the king under the mountain did return. Thorin does come back when during The Hobbit, during the quest for Erebor, and both Dale and Lake Town, they did prosper in the years after.
But the lake also literally did shine and burn when Smaug the dragon attacked and destroyed friggin' Lake Town.
Yeah, Yeah, those last couple lines, shall run with gladness, shall shine, the lake shall shine and burn.
Yeah.
It did shine and burn,
Oh, yes, it did.
just not in a very good way. I don't know. I really loved that. I love the Hobbit and all the little things in there. And this was one of the prophecies from there that I enjoyed.
We got to sing it. That was cool.
Hell yeah. So the next prophecy on our list is it's the dream of Boromir and Faramir, which I think we can comfortably say is a prophecy.
Yes, definitely. And yeah, we've covered this in a few different episodes. But this, of course, takes place in June of Third Age 3018, when Faramir began to have dreams, speaking of Imladris and Isildur's Bane.
Yeah, and on June 19th, specifically of 3018, this is the night before Sauron's infamous attack on Ithilien. This is when both Faramir and his brother Boromir, they have that same dream, and that dream contains a message.
And we got that message brought to you courtesy of Joel.
In that dream, I thought the eastern sky grew dark, and there was a growing thunder. But in the west a pale light lingered, and out of it I heard a voice, remote but clear, crying, "Seek for the sword that was broken. In Imladris it dwells. There shall be counsels taken, stronger than Morgul spells. There shall be shown a token that doom is near at hand, for Isildur's bane shall waken, and the halfling forth shall stand."
Yeah. And when did this one get fulfilled? But on October 25th of the Third Age 3018, when the Council of Elrond did indeed meet in Rivendell.
Yeah, the Council of Elrond. We love this chapter.
Oh, yeah.
So at this meeting, it's made known that Aragorn was now basically going to be coming into his own as king.
And it was decreed that Frodo, the halfling, shall take the ring, Isildur's Bane, to Mordor to have it destroyed.
Yeah, Aragorn also shows the shards of Narsil at this meeting as well.
Yes.
So
It's all coming together.
Everything comes together. It's great.
On October 25th, baby.
So yeah, the Council of Elrond. Go read that chapter just for fun, guys. It's a really good chapter.
Just for funsies. So, like Melian of yore, right? We have in the Third Age Galadriel, who's kind of a similar type character, right?
Yeah, and there are a lot of similarities between Galadriel and Melian's characters within kind of like the structure of their tales.
Yeah.
They perform similar functions.
So wouldn't you know it, right? Galadriel's got some prophecies too.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys probably know some of them. This is the last of the prophecies on our list today, and we're going to cover one of the prophecies. Well, it's kind of a triple prophecy.
Sort of, yeah, indeed.
That of Galadriel's.
So on March 1st, Third Age 3019, the magic year, Gandalf the White meets the three hunters in the forest of Fangorn.
Yeah, and this is the first time that they've seen Gandalf since he fell in Moria, and they thought he died. Well, he did die, I guess, and then he comes back.
Yeah.
But this is the first time they've seen him since then. They had no idea that he's still around. They think he's dead and gone.
And Gandalf had just freshly come from Lothlorien, actually.
Yeah, and this is when Gandalf recites to them the messages, or prophecies, as we're referring to them as. He recites to them the messages that were given to him by Galadriel for each of the three hunters regarding their near futures. And we've got Dani has an excerpt here about these three prophecies she gives.
Aragorn. Where now are the Dunedain? Elisar, Elisar. Why do thy kinfolk wander afar? Near is the hour when the lost should come forth, and the grey company ride from the north. But dark is the path appointed for thee. The dead watch the road that leads to the sea. Legolas. Legolas Greenleaf, along under tree. In joy thou hast lived, beware of the sea. If thou hearest the cry of the gull on the shore, thy heart shall then rest in the forest no more. Gimli. Lock-bearer, wherever thou goest, my thoughts go with thee, but have a care to lay thine axe to the right tree. So how are all these fulfilled?
Yeah, so let's start off with Aragorn's prophecy. So, as we kind of talked about already, on March 8th of 3019, Aragorn and their great company, they take the paths of the dead towards the sea.
Of course.
And while traversing the paths of the dead, they fulfill the prophecy about a descendant of Isildur and calling upon the dead men of Dunharrow to fulfill their oath.
Mm-hmm.
And this also leads them directly to the mouths of Anduin in the sea, where they are able to intercept the Corsairs of Umbar in time. So that was a pretty important one right there.
Right. And for Legolas, he will eventually have the sea longing, right?
Right.
Because Legolas, is this the first time he's seen the sea?
Yeah, so that when they finally get to the mouths of Anduin to stop this, to intercept the Corsairs, this is the first time he's seen the sea.
And he kind of, for the first time, considers like sailing home to Valinor, right?
Yeah, they talk about this in Tolkien back in the Silmarillion, even the sea longing.
Sea longing, right?
Elves are known.
Thing.
Elves are known to have sea longing when they fall in love with the sea.
And men too, like Tuor and Eärendil.
Men too as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just something that happens when
It's just
people see. I wonder if Tolkien himself really loved the sea.
Yeah. We were talking to a friend of ours actually who had never been to a city called Duluth in Minnesota, and it's right on the shores of Lake Superior, right, you guys? It's a beautiful city, but like the lake is so vast and so huge. There's a part of you as a Minnesotan that when you get there, you realize there's like this maritime culture that we have too, and you experience this kind of like sea longing, like this at-home feeling you have on the shores of Lake Superior.
I do distinctly remember that the first time I went up and saw Lake Superior, I was 14, and I was going with my brother and some of his friends and their dad to go camping. And I remember seeing Lake Superior for the first time, and being that it's called Lake Superior, I was like, oh, it's a big old lake.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen lakes before.
Yeah.
But this was the first time I'd seen a body of water that I could not see the other side of.
Yes, it's a vast freshwater ocean.
And I had no idea it was that large, and I saw that, and for the first time I was like, this has been here this whole time in Minnesota, right where I live, like just like an hour or two away from me. And I had no idea. And I kind of, I felt that. The sea longing, all of a sudden I was like, we are a maritime people.
Of course. Yeah, all of a sudden you start identifying with these maritime people, even though you've lived in the River Valley your whole life. You know?
Yeah, I am a River Valley kid. That's true.
We are river rats.
Oh, but let's get to the third of Galadriel's prophecies, the one for Gimli.
Yeah.
This one's kind of short.
Yeah, it's kind of short because her thing was kind of short, to be honest. So she calls him Lockbearer, and that's because he encases the 3 strands of her hair into a jewel, and they become heirlooms of his house.
Yeah, and she says that wherever thou goest, my heart or my thought goes with thee. And, he carries these gems, and they do become kind of like trademarks of his house, symbols of luck and good fortune. And also, Gimli is graced with the intercession of Galadriel, which some think may have been why he, of all the dwarves, was accepted into Valinor.
Yeah, the only one ever.
Because at the end of his life, he and Legolas, they sail over there together.
Yeah, my thought goes with thee all the way across the sea to Valinor.
Yeah, some think that might be why he was allowed, because no other dwarves are allowed in Valinor.
No, never. Ugh.
But he is. And then the last line, but have a care not to lay thine axe to the right tree. We suspect that has something to do with Lothlorien, but we don't.
Well, I think it's just kind of a general, like, she taught him respect for the trees and for nature and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think
which her and Legolas kind of do, you know?
Yeah. So that's the total. That's our entire list that we've got for you guys for prophecies today.
Yeah. So, final thoughts.
Yeah, a few final thoughts.
Prophecies, they're not only super cool, but they also serve many purposes in Tolkien.
Yeah, they often foreshadow important events. And they're often driving forces in Tolkien's tales.
And they are, above all, great concepts, great examples of Tolkien's concept of doom.
Yes, this is the Doom Trilogy. We're talking about doom, and prophecies are a huge driver of doom.
Yeah, and Tolkien very clearly loved prophecies because he included tons of them in his legendarium.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure people listening to this are probably thinking to themselves of prophecies that we didn't cover. There are a lot of prophecies, guys.
Yeah, and they're very fairy tale-like or biblical in a sense.
Yeah, which makes sense why he'd include them in his tales. I love that he includes so many of these prophecies and just these things related to people's doom. I think it just really adds an air, a little something to his stories that I don't get from other places.
Yeah, exactly. A little urgency to the story in some cases.
Yeah. So ultimately, prophecies, we love them and we think they're super cool.
Yeah. But that's all we got for you content-wise today, guys. Thanks for listening to KOT Podcast. Make sure you follow us on all the social medias. Follow us on Twitter at KOT Podcast. If you want to follow me, I am at Danny J, Jay, KOT.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/official Keep On Tolkien. And while you're there, don't forget to join the KOT Talk group and, jump into some discussions and share some fun memes with us. And you can also find us on Instagram. That's at Keep On Tolkien Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, just /Keep On Tolkien.
And also join that Discord server That's another thing that we're having a lot of fun with is interacting with you all on Discord. There's a couple posts if you search our Twitter with the link on it. We'll throw out some more for you guys.
Yeah, we'll link the Discord a ton. We have a lot of fun. We live on Discord, so
Yeah, we're literally on there all
if you want to talk to us, hop on Discord, guys.
Yeah. Also, thank you so much for giving to the Patreon. And if you want to do that, that's at www.patreon.com/KOT podcast. Subscribe to Patreon to help support us because KOT is a 100% DIY podcast.
Yeah, we've said it before and we'll say it again. A large reason that we were able to come back and do this current season is because of our patrons.
Oh, yeah, definitely 100%. For sure. And yeah, because everything is still coming out of pocket, but donations do help mitigate that cost quite a bit.
A lot. Like we said, that's why we can do this.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is just to bring you new great content at the same level of quality that you're used to. Subscribing can also unlock some cool exclusive content.
Yeah, and also we've had a few people contact us regarding one-time private donations. That is absolutely okay. If you'd like to give us a one-time private donation, go ahead and hit us up, email or message us on social media. We know that Patreon and subscribing isn't
necessarily everyone's thing.
Yeah, not always everyone's thing.
Yeah, so if you want to do that, shoot us an email, message. We'll get it taken care of. We have PayPal, other things. We can come together. But that's all for today, guys. I'm Danny J.
And I'm Jolan. And as always, keep on Tolkien.
Hooray and Tuluva.